Hey there, and welcome. Today we are tackling one of the most critical and, honestly, one of the most confusing hurdles in Australian migration, the balance of family test for parent visas. If you're hoping to bring your parents to Australia, trust me, this is something you absolutely have to get right from day one. So, you're thinking about bringing your parents over to join you. It's a wonderful goal, right? But before you even think about visa fees or processing times, there's this one single test that decides if you can even get started. It all comes down to this. Do your parents pass? And this is exactly why it's so important. I mean, look at this quote directly from the Department of Home Affairs. This isn't just a suggestion, it's a non-negotiable, hard and fast rule. There are no workarounds, no special considerations. If you get it wrong when you apply, that's it. But don't you worry, because we're going to make this crystal clear. Over the next few minutes, we're going to cover exactly what this test is, the two simple rules for passing, who the government actually counts as an eligible child, the common traps that catch so many families out, and of course, what your next strategic moves should be. Okay, let's dive right in. Section 1, the unbreakable first hurdle. Think of this test not as just another form to fill out, but as the very first gatekeeper in the entire parent visa process. You have to get past this to move forward. So what is it officially? Well, it's written right into Australia's migration law. At its heart, the test is designed to measure how strong your parents' ties are to Australia. And it does that by doing a simple head count of where all their children live. It's a test of math, not emotion. Now, this next part is absolutely crucial. The test is assessed at the time of application. This means it's a snapshot of your family situation on the exact day you hit submit. Lodging just one day too early, say, before your brother gets his permanent residency, can cause the whole thing to fail. Timing is literally everything. All right, on to Section 2. Now that we know what the test is, let's look at how to actually pass it. The good news? There are two ways to do it, and you only need to meet one of them. So here are the two pathways. The first one is the half rule, or the 50% rule. This one's pretty straightforward. At least half of your parents' children need to be eligible children living in Australia. The second path is the plurality rule. This one means your parents have more kids living in Australia than in any other single country. This can be a real game changer if the family is spread out all over the world. But, and this is a huge but, listen up. For that second rule, the plurality rule, the word more means exactly that, more. It does not mean equal to. So if your parents have one child in Australia and one child in the UK, that's a tie, and a tie is a fail. So many people get this wrong, and it's a really costly mistake to make. Okay, Section 3. This is probably the most important part of the whole puzzle. Who actually counts as an eligible child? You see, I've used that term a few times, and its legal definition is the key to this entire calculation. Just because your sibling lives in Australia doesn't mean they count. To be counted on the Australia side of the ledger, a child has to fit into one of these three boxes. They need to be an Australian citizen, a permanent resident, or what's called an eligible New Zealand citizen. And see that phrase at the end of each line, usually residing in Australia? That's key. It's not enough to just have the status, you have to actually live here. And this slide makes it really clear who doesn't count. Got a sibling on a student visa or a 485 grad visa? Nope. What about a bridging visa while they wait for their own PR? Still no. Most New Zealanders who moved here after 2001, also not eligible. And even an Australian citizen or PR who's packed up and is now living permanently overseas, they actually count against you. Okay, now that we've got the rules down, let's get into the nitty-gritty. Section 4, common traps and misconceptions. This is where we look at all the hidden little details that can make a seemingly simple application go sideways fast. And here is one of the biggest curveballs: stepchildren. The rules are totally different depending on whether we're talking about a current or a former partner. If your parent has a new partner, all of that partner's kids get added to the total head count, no matter their age or where they live. But for an ex-partner, only their kids under 18 that your parent has legal custody of are counted. A new marriage can completely change the math. Let's walk through another classic trap with a scenario. Imagine there are 3 kids in your family. You're a citizen living here in Australia. Your sister lives overseas. And your brother? He's also right here in Australia, working, living his life. But he's on a bridging visa, waiting for his own PR to come through. So you've got 2 out of 3 kids physically in Australia. You'd think that's an easy pass, right? It seems obvious. But the million-dollar question is this: does your brother on that bridging visa actually count as an eligible child? And the answer? is a hard no. Because a bridging visa is temporary, he's not an eligible child. In the eyes of this test, it's as if he's living overseas. That application would fail. The winning strategy here is to wait until his permanent visa is officially granted before you even think about lodging your parents' application. And there are other traps too. We already touched on the New Zealand citizen issue and the PR living abroad, but here's another big one: estrangement. A lot of people assume that if they have no relationship with a sibling, that sibling won't be counted. That's just not true. This is a biological and legal head count, not a test of who you talk to. Okay, our heads are probably spinning a bit with all these rules and traps. So let's move on to the practical stuff in Section 5, your strategic next steps. What can you actually do with this information, whether you think you'll pass or you're worried you might fail? Well, if your parents don't pass the test, the main alternative is the Subclass 870's sponsored parent visa. The big plus? It does not require the balance of family test. The catch is that it's a temporary visa. It lets them stay for up to 10 years, but it never leads to permanent residency. Of course, there's always visitor visas or just waiting to see if your family's circumstances change over time. Now, if you're close to passing, strategy is everything. It's all about timing. You can wait for a sibling's PR to be finalized. You can carefully assess the impact of a new partner's family. You could wait for a stepchild from a previous relationship to turn 18, as they might drop out of the calculation then. Or you could even encourage a sibling who's a PR overseas to move back and set up life in Australia again. So really the main takeaway here is that the complexity of the balance of family test is so much greater than most families ever expect. From the very specific rules about New Zealand citizens to the weird way stepchildren are counted and the critical importance of timing your application around bridging visas. There are just so many layers to get right. And all of this complexity really boils down to one simple question. Are you ready to find out for sure where your parents stand? Getting a professional assessment before you invest a whole lot of time and money is absolutely the smartest first step. At First Migration, our agents specialize in these parent visa applications, and we can give you that comprehensive assessment to see if your parents actually qualify. A great place to start is by filling out the free visa assessment right on our website.